This section, let us talk about CORS. Now, CORS is basically what? If you check out for CORS errors, what do we find here is cross origin resource sharing. Basically, it's a protocol that enables script running on browser client to interact with other resources, yeah, from different origins. So, if example, your UI app wishes to make an API call running on different domain, it would be blocked from doing so due to the CORS. So, it's like a security given to you by your browser, and so other origin basically can be different scheme, domain, or different port is also considered to be a CORS error. So, how will we do that? Is first, to enable this, let me create a model called as notice. Yeah, just to show you how I'm using notices. So I create notice here. In my notice, I will have two things: string notice ID and string notice title. Okay, what I do is I quickly generate my constructor. I quickly generate a constructor with both the things. Then I have my setters and getters. I've got my setter and getter. So I've created this. And then from my, see, I'm not connecting database to this because I'm interested in showing you how it works on the front end side. So now in my controller, I create a notice controller. And okay. So under my class, notice class, let me create a class called as notice controller and template class. Okay, notice controller already exists. So I just need to add that when we are fetching the notices, let me return yeah. So when I call slash notices this time, rather than this, I say a notice object. And what does it return? It returns a new notice object. So it says new notice. What is that? I have got important notice. Bank servers will be down between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. for service. Let's say it's a notice which was there, was supposed to be given. So if you call slash notices, so it's a very straightforward activity. If I run this, and do I need anything for connection here? No. Why? Because it's something which is allowed in permit all. So if I go here and if I say slash registered, not registered, I don't care at this point. But if I say slash notices, it is giving me, see, it is giving me important notice and bank servers will be down. What will happen if I create a React tab? So I've done what? I've created a React tab which is making call to localhost 8080 slash notices. Basically, if you're new to React, don't worry. I'm just showing you how it works in cross origin and how it exactly. So if the notices are received, it will display those notice ID and notice title. So in my application where this is running right now, I will just simply go start my command prompt. Say code is working. So I will say npm start. So if you open this app, which is running on localhost 3000. If I open this app, see, notice ID is there. If I inspect my element and I go to the console, it says access to fetch notices from origin has been blocked by CORS policy. Yeah, access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. It's not loading it properly. If you are interested in running this application, I have added the see the Git repo is there where this application is hosted. You can check that out. Yeah, so we have got React app for Spring Security. You can check on my Git repo. and yeah, you can just download it, do npm install, and then npm run, npm start, and it will do this. So for now, what exactly is happening is I am not able to uh, generate, like, this CORS issue is blocking my connectivity between 3000 and 8080. Let's fix that. So for that reason, we'll have to go and add certain configurations into our code. What are those configurations? What we need to add here is, let's go to the config part, and in my HTTP, I will say dot CORS. So I'm giving the CORS policy. Here I say that my CORS config, and in my CORS config, I have got CORS config dot configuration source. And in my configuration source, what will I do? I will say new config CORS configuration source, which has an override function of get CORS configuration, which takes an HTTP request. And this is where I will write my CORS configuration object. So CORS configuration config is equal to new CORS configuration. Okay. Then I say config dot set allowed origins. So from where do I want to allow my values? So I'll say collections. I can specify multiple. So collections dot singleton list, which is what, http colon slash slash localhost colon 3000. I specify what are my allowed origins. Then I want to specify what are my allowed methods. Like, you can block certain methods also. So I'll say set allowed methods, again collections dot singleton list of asterisks. Asterisk simply means what? Get, post, put, delete. All of them are allowed here. Okay. Then config dot set allowed credentials. So they are allowed to be true. Then config dot set allowed headers. Set allowed headers. So again, all types of headers I will allow here. So collections dot singleton list of asterisks. And then how much time this should be enabled? So config dot set max age. So I specify that this is going to be 3600L. What is the max age we are specifying here? Okay. And then we return the config object. We are returning the config object. This way, what is happening now? My data is added, and I am setting up my configurations to allow localhost 3000 to connect with my application as well. If you have more applications, some running on Angular, you can specify the port numbers or the domains. So now if I go back to my application and I reload this time, see, I have got this data here. Bank server will be down, and here I have got important notice. So this way I was able to clear up my CORS issue and connect between these two applications. Yeah. This section, let us focus upon something what we call as CSRF. We have discussed about CSRF, that whenever you try to make a post call, as a implementation, like people trying to attack you, they do what? Your backend will generate a CSRF token which will be given to the UI, and that UI will keep on passing the CSRF token. So even if your end user or some bad user is able to fetch your details, like the cookies, other cookies, it will not be able to get the CSRF token. So there are multiple ways to implement this protection on server side, and use of CSRF token is most popular. So CSRF token is a string that is tied to the user session but not submitted automatically. A website proceeds only when it receives a valid CSRF token with the cookies. Since there is no way for an attacker to know a specific user token, attacker can perform actions on user's behalf. Yeah. So there are previous ways. Now what will I do is, let's jump into the CSRF token. First, I have disabled it, right? So I will comment this for a minute, and I will go back to my register, and let's say I say Tom at code with Z and Tom at 312 321, and I try to post it again. See, when I try to do this, it is giving me an error, yeah, that is forbidden. And this forbidden error is basically because that CSRF issue was be there. So it invokes a CSRF filter here, right? See, it invokes a CSRF filter. Now there is a class I would like you to check out, something what is called as, if you go to navigate and say CSRF token. Yeah, one from, I want to check the one from web. Okay. So if you see a CSRF token, so CSRF token is something which is being passed. And if you see, we have got CSRF token, it implements serializable. And what are the implementations available? So out of the implementation, normally your Spring Boot will choose the default one. So if you go to the default one, what do you see here? We have got the CSRF token implementation. Okay. And we have got the header name, parameter name, and the token value here. Yeah, and which is implementing the CSRF token. So this is the token which will normally be created. Apart from that, we have got CSRF token repository. So it's again an interface which helps you to generate the token repository. And what are the implementations of this? So I want, what are the implementations of this? We have got HTTP session, which is not recommended. We have got cookie CSRF token. So we will set it up in the cookie. Yeah, cookies a CSRF token, and you see we have got underscore CSRF token repository, XCRF token repository, and so on. So this cookie CSRF token repository is something I need to enable. So I do what? I'll go back. I will say, let's see, handling CSRF is very important in your project. Disabling is not an option. So what I do in my CSRF, I first thing in my config, I'll say rather than disabling it this now, rather than disabling this, what I say is CSRF config dot, what is going to be my CSRF configuration. So here I will say what is going to be my request handler. So I will create a simple class here in my function. Let me create something called as CSRF token and request attribute handler. CSRF request handler is equal to new CSRF request token attribute handler. Save it and let's see what this class is. So it's an implementation of token request handler that is capable of making the CSRF token available as a request attribute and resolve the token values as either a header or a parameter. So I say, first thing, I write this class, I say CSRF token dot CSRF token request handler. So I specify my request handler here, step one. Then what do I do next? After I set up my request handler, dot, which are the matchers I want to ignore, that I don't want the CSRF tokens being generated for what? Slash contact and slash, let's say, register. I am not interested for this too because this will create a problem. These both are sort of post request for me. And then, as I said, CSRF token repository. What is going to be my token repository? This time it is going to be cookie CSRF token repository. And with one thing, with HTTP only false. Because if I keep HTTP only true, even if you check that out here, whenever you check the cookies, it says with HTTP. So it can only be called from the browser and not from any other application. If you want your React or Angular application to work with that, what you need to do is you need to set up your with HTTP false to be with HTTP to be false. Then one important part is, as a part of the performance, my performance in the Spring Boot, see, all GET requests will not require the CSRF tokens. So as by default, Spring Security will not load your CSRF token and pass it to the UI in the front end. So for completing that, what I need to do is I need to write a piece of code which will be like a filter, yeah, which will do that job explicitly for me. So I write a filter. In my filter, I write what? New Java class CSRF cookie filter. And this cookie filter will do what? Extends this cookie filter, does what? Extends once per request filter. Now, if you check the documentation for once per request filter, it's a filter based class that aim to guarantee a single execution per request dispatch or any request container. If it provides a do a filter internal method with request and response object, filter may be invoked as a part of request or async dispatches that in a separate thread. A filter may be configured, so I'm like other apart from that, but the idea is this will only work for a single filter. Yeah, a single request it will work. So once per request filter, I have gotten method to override. I will say do filter internal, and I've got my chain. What I do here is I will explicitly read that token in my attribute. I will add lexi CSRF token. So I say it's my CSRF token is equal to request dot get attribute. Yeah. And in my request dot get attribute, I will check for CSRF token dot class dot get name. So whatever that token value is, I get it and I convert that into a CSRF token. So here you are explicitly doing what? Reading that token. So we render the token value so that it will be passed because this is lazy loaded. Yeah, it render the token value to a cookie by passing the by causing the deferred token to be loaded. Yeah, by the default token to be loaded. Then I do what? CSRF token dot get token. CSRF token dot get token. And then I do filter chain dot do filter request and response. I do request and response. So this point I have just instantiated it. So that's fine. But now I need to add this in my filter list so that it can be accessed. So for that reason, after I'm done with my CSRF implementations, here I do what? Dot add filter after. So after my authentication is done, what I need to do is I call new CSRF cookie filter, which I've created right now. And after what I will call it basic authentication filter. Okay. So this way I have enabled my CSRF token and managed it very properly. So if I rerun this time, it's fine working. And now let me try to register the user. So this time it says what? See, customer details are stored successfully. And if you check my cookie, now there are two things. I have also got an XCSRF token which I'm getting, and my HTTP request is set to what? False. So this way, any type of post request I call, it will take it from the browser, which will be enabled there, and I will be able to pass it ahead. So this is how you enable the CSRF in your at the CSRF application. So what we do here, okay, CORS is done, and I did not do an update. So basically, we updated CORS and CSRF in this particular push. Both the things will be added, I guess. So yeah, notice. So CORS and CSRF both handling I have added in this particular push. Okay, so the next part, what we are going to explore is about authentication and authorization. Authentication is we check whether the user is checked for accessing the system. Is that okay? Authorization is basically can they go into a specific resource? Yeah. So a customer or an employee in a bank can perform action in an app, but for example, but a user, an admin user can do multiple different things. Or for example, in your company or in wherever you are, yours and your CEO's role will be different. Both of you are authenticated to be in the building, but you're not authorized for everything. Your CEO is authorized. Yeah. So if authentication basically fails, we give 401, and if authorization fail, we give 403 sort of error, like they are forbidden for accessing that. So here we have got two filters. First is authentication filter and authorization filter, which connect with my security context. So when a client make a request with the credentials, when a client make a request with the credential, the authentication will intercept the request and validate if the person is valid, and she, the same person who are they claiming. Post authentication, the filter stores the user detail in the security context. Okay. After that, the user detail will have their username and authorities, and now the authorization will intercept and decide at this point. Yeah. Now the authorization will intercept and decide whether the person has access to the given path. based upon the authorities which are stored in their security context, based upon the security context. And if they are, then they will be passed on to the forward controllers. Okay. So let us deploy this in an application. So what I do is, see, there are two things before that. There are two things. We have got how our authority is stored. So there is a class called as granted authority, and which will return me the authority in Spring. So the Spring security, we have got granted authority, and we have got section like has authority, has any authority, access, and so on. Then there is a difference between authority and role. Now both are interchangeable. I'll show you during the code. Authority is like an individual privilege, whereas a role is a group of privileges. So I will show you the example for authority, and you can take it up as a task for checking with your other part. So what I do is for authentication authorization, let me update my code first. So for that reason, I'll go back and I will add in my script. See, I'm not adding up only after this point. Okay. So what I have done is I will drop the existing customer table. Then I create customer with customer ID, name, email, mobile number, password, role, and create date. So here I have taken a bcrypt value which belongs to CWZ at 123. Then I insert three users, Tom, Alex, and Mike. Yeah. And then I add the authorities. So these authorities are added for the customer based upon whatever customer ID they have. And then I specify, for example, Mike have, Tom have the authority of read and write. Then what is second? Alex have only for read, and Mike only have for write. So let me run this code first. And I'll go to Postgre in my in the query tool, paste it, execute. So now you see the things I've updated. I will just refresh. And if you see my customers table, I have got, if I see my view data, I have got three records now, Tom, Alex, and Mike. Okay. With the bcrypt password is CWZ123 for all three of them. So this is where I have added the script and I have updated my value. So let me make a quickly a commit. So here from this point onward, what we are doing, authorization, authentication, and authorization added SQL script. So I push this. So what I do is I will have to update my customer object. Next step is, because you have seen I have updated my customer model, let me update my customer object. So here I will have multiple relations. So let me first do what? If you see the customer object now, what do you find? That they also have some authorities which has been replaced by, which is being added by my authorities table. Yeah. In my authorities, I am having my ID, customer ID, and what are the properties or what are the roles or authority they have. So I have need to create two models now. First is what? An authority model. In the authority model, what will I have is I will use some many to one relations of JPA. So for that, what I'll do is go to my model, create a Java class. Let me call it as authority. And in my authority class, what will I have is private long ID. Then I have got private customer. Okay, let's take the name first. So string name. What is the name of the authority here? And private customer, and many customer can have this one single authority. So let us start making it more. First, let us add all the setter getters, everything. So I will add the setter getter for all the three things. Then let me also add the constructor, one without any parameters, and then one constructor with the don't add another constructor is fine. So I'm not going to use that constructor anyway. Now I have to mark this thing. So I'll say add entity, add table, and this time name of my table is what? Authorities. Name of my table is what? Authorities. Then here I say add ID. Then add, we have got what? Generated value. And in my generated value, I say my strategy is generation type dot identity. That is fine. Then I have got name. And here I have to mark with my customer what is my relation. So I'll say many to one. Many authority can belong to a single customer. And on what basis I'm joining? So I have to specify my join column. And here, if you say the name of my column is what? Customer underscore ID. If you see in my database, this is my primary key, foreign key in the authorities, which is customer underscore ID. So I get this customer underscore ID here, and that's it. So this is how I write my authority. And now let's update the customer. So in customer, let me get rid of this Lombok for now. I will just write my code by myself. So apart from, so I have got ID, email, then I will add a mobile number, password is already there. So, and then I also need to add a ID, name. Here you have seen one more thing is when I've created the customer now, I have updated my ID to be what? Customer underscore ID. So I need to go back in my customer now, and ID, I have to specify a column that this here is a column whose name is what? Customer underscore ID here. Then I have got ID, I have got email, I have got password, then I have got, I have got mobile number. Let me also mark it with column. Name is mobile underscore number. Okay. And we have role. So that role was there. And then we say what? Private. So do we have need that role? Yes. No. Yeah. Role is there for admin. So that's fine. And then after that role, I have to add a create date. Private string create date. And I'll say add column. Name is equal to create underscore dt. And then I have got private set of authority is authority authorities. Okay. And I'll mark this as one customer can have many authorities. Okay. One customer can have many authorities. So this is one to many mapping. And also have to say how it is mapped by. So it is mapped by customer object in my authority. Okay. This is all JPA 101. And then my fetch type, I want to make it as what? Eager, so that it does not go into lazy loading, and I don't want to pass on this data to the front end. So I'll mark it as JSON ignore as well. Yeah, I will mark it as JSON ignore. And after this, quickly, I will just generate setter getter for everything and a default constructor. Okay, so I create a setter getter, and that's it. So this dot authorities is also set. Perfect. I saved where it says illegal start of a type. Where? Identifier expected. Where? I don't need to fix this. Okay. Customer line 26. What I have messed up here. I don't think so. Any problems there? If I rerun, I don't think so. There is any error. Okay. I add customer. I add authorities. Okay. I had to make two changes for authentication authorization. Yeah. So we added the authority and updated the customer. Let's make a commit here. So let me push this and next is let us make changes in your config file. So now we will check which authentication or user have what exact details. So after I make this change, I have one more place because I have changed my authorities implementation. I have to go to my authentication detail service, the detail service where I was fetching the authentication scenarios. So now, if you see, only change I need to do here, I was just adding a single one earlier. Now I still have the list of the customers which I need to add. So I do what? Here, let me stream that because my customer will be having what authorities. So I say customer dot get authorities dot I use a stream and then I do what map. Let me take this in next slide. So I do map, and in the map, for every authority, what I want to return is new simple granted authority, and it is what authority dot get name of that authority, and then I collect all of this dot collect and collectors dot to list. Let's not get into the modifier thing. So I say to list. So this is one change I have done in my code with the detail service because earlier I only had a single authority which I was working. Now I have got multiple. So I have just told them what type of authorities I am working with. And then in my security file, I will just go and tell them what users have what exact values. So what of the user, which users can actually connect or basically on which basis I will work with them. So I do what? I comment this first one. I comment this first line where I've got the request matcher and sorry, like this. Then I say dot request matchers for slash accounts. If they have an authority of read, I will allow them to access it. Dot request matchers of balance. If they has any authority between read and write, I am okay. Then I've got request matchers slash loans has. See, also if you specify the role in the backend, you can just change to any role or role. So now I have authority of let's say read, and after the loans, I have got cards. So I use this second authority, and then I have got permit all for match. So this way I specify what authorities this all have, and it's reloading now. If I go here and I first thing close all tab to the right and clear the history. Okay. I go to see. Let's see the combination now. If I check the first one, accounts. So for accounts, only read is allowed, right? So one is Tom, two is Mike, three is Alex. So if I go to authorities, or I can say select star from customer, join public dot authorities, right? A on C dot customer underscore ID equal to A dot customer underscore ID fire my query. So this time, Tom is having what? Tom is having the access for read, write. Yeah. And Alex have it for read. So account will be available only for whom? For Tom and Alex. Let's try that. So if we say accounts, I say Tom at example.com. Password is CWZ at 123. See, they're able to access it. But at the same time, if I try to change this for Mike, okay, Mike at example.com, and if I say CWZ at 123, see, it says it's forbidden. Forbidden means it is not allowed. I'm not authorized to jump in there. So this makes sense, and this is how we have done for implementation for my authentication and authorization full implementation.